In the quiet town of Sharpton lies a shoddy, one-story tall brick building. The building was situated upon the corner of a lonely intersection, distant from the city center. The windows were tinted with a collage of dirt and dust, but if you looked carefully enough, you were able to make out the cross-hatched shadows behind the barred windows. The building, originally painted a pearl white, has faded to a tannish color over the many years. The dull-looking building had a deep red Coca-Cola sign plastered on one of its walls. Next to it, a dimly lit fluorescent red and blue sign reading "Open," except without the E. The soft glow of the fluorescent sign reflected off the passenger side mirror into the view of Shermin, who was seated stiffly behind the wheel. The engine of the car was left running, pumping smog through the exhaust into the crisp, cold air of the night. The car was obviously a relic of its former glory. The ride was detailed with crudely kept rims and 3 matching tires, the odd one being a replacement. The whole thing was coated in a misty orange paint job that was eagerly chipping away. The car was sitting half a block away from the entrance of the convenience store, the perfect distance away not to attract attention, but also close enough for someone to clear the distance between the store and the car in a split second if needed. While unintentionally gazing off, Shermin, a hopeless automotive mechanic, contemplated how he got here. After failing to successfully land a job in a city as populated as an anthill, he has lost all hope. Being down in luck and his mortgage payments creeping up on him, he needed money, and he needed it quick. Before he has any more time to change his mind, Hamsa's yell brings Shermin back to his full attention. "I got it! Let's go!" Shermin roars the engine just before stepping on the gas as Hamsa hastily enters into the orange beast. The car pulls away from the city, putting miles between themselves and the store within minutes. As the car cruised along the empty road, the faint pitch of sirens could be heard over the humming engine. For a period of time, the sirens were lost in the stillness of the night. But suddenly, a flash of red and blue illuminated the mirrors. Caught in a moment of panic, the speedometer slowly crept its way clockwise towards the red of the gauge. Hamsa insisted on slowing down and keeping it cool, confident that an officer would not be able to follow them this far out of the city. The only reason they could be in the wrong is for speeding. "Pull over the car and I'll do the talking," said Hamsa. Hamsa and Shermin were drowned in a pool of fear as the cop cautiously made his way to the car. "What seems to be the matter, officer?" asked Hamsa. "Do you realize how fast you were going down that road?" the officer questioned. No, sir. I wasn't paying attention, sorry," said Shermin. "License and registration, please." Hamsa tossed down the glove compartment and scrambled to find the papers. Hamsa carefully handed the paperwork to Shermin, who then passed it to the officer. The officer took a short glance, then strutted back to his vehicle. It was as if they were holding their breath this whole time, and they let it all out in a sigh of relief. The officer was sitting in his patrol car, running the license plate as the static in the radio dissipates. A voice could be heard. The woman on the telecoms was advising all nearby patrol cars of the recent robbery. She gave a description that was strangely similar to what was blatantly in front of the officer.
Two middle-aged men driving a 1999 orange Mercedes with tinted windows.
The woman's voice then slowly recited the numbers and letters, in which the officer would look at the next in disbelief, as if he were playing the lottery. "Step out of the vehicle, with your hands behind your head," said the officer aggressively, as he had more than enough reasonable evidence to do so. Total shock filled their bodies. Having finally been caught, they knew they would not get away with it this time. Hamsa and Shermin complied with the orders as the officer read the caution to the accused. Soon, Shermin and Hamsa were sitting on the curb with their hands cuffed as the officer searched their car. Making sure the police upheld his duties, he kept an accurate log of what he heard and saw. Believing that Hamsa and Shermin may commit further offenses, he detained them until a bail hearing would take place. Shermin and Hamsa were sitting like statues in the jail cells. The look on their face was pale with worry and defeat. Having their bail hearing denied, they remained in their cells. The cell was filled with 3 other men, scattered across from each other like magnets with the same pole. The silence was broken when a voice summoned Shermin. He looked up and slowly inched his way to the metal bars. He was faced with a man gripping a stack of paperwork. He mentioned that the court hearing will be in the morning of the next day. Shermin was slow to reply, but then he remembered one of the other men in the jail cell mentioned something about a legal aid. Shermin quickly requested for legal aid to assist him during the court hearings. Shermin eagerly awaits his trial, regretting every move he has made up to this point. During this time, he had the chance to speak with a defense lawyer, as he was eligible for legal aid. His lawyer, having the chance to review the evidence brought forth by Shermin, could only try and lessen the charges put forth from the Crown. Shermin knew he was guilty, but the thought of denying everything was contemplated and quickly dismissed. He knew that there was clear evidence against him, and he did not want to make his situation any worse than it already was. His lawyer also reviewed the evidence on the Crown side, as entitled. Knowing that the outcome of the hearing was inevitable, Shermin was determined to get the court hearing over with quickly. He sped through the preliminary hearing where he was linked to the possession of a gun in his car, and continued into the provincial court. Shermin had agreed to plead guilty at the plea of negotiation. Fortunately for him, his sentence was dropped from 8 years to only 5 for the offense of robbery. Although his sentence was shortened, he was shell-shocked at the fact that years of his life would be stripped from him. Only 5 years had passed, but it seemed like a lifetime. Serving his sentence had changed Shermin. It took 2 long years in a prison cell to accept his mistakes and forgive himself for his crimes. He thought incessantly about the smell of his prison cell, made from a musty mixture of testosterone and sweat. But now, at this very moment, he was no longer in a cell. All those memories were behind him now. He was motivated to start a new life. After completing what seemed like an endless mountain of paperwork and forms, Shermin was finally awarded his freedom, along with his personal possessions, which included a wallet, an expired bus pass, his clothing, and the keys to his old car. Shermin looked down into the palm of his hand at the key to his car. It was poorly spray-painted orange and shared the same key ring as a pair of orange dice. The dice was a gift from his old boss at the auto shop, a simple matching keychain to remind him that he was part of the team.